You know, sometimes the most powerful statements, the ones that literally change the world, aren't shouted from a mountaintop. They're tucked away inside a familiar story, a story everyone thinks they already know. We're going to see how a simple, ancient song was turned into a radical and frankly dangerous new claim.
So that's the big question, right? We're going to dive into exactly that. We'll see how a well-known song about a vineyard was picked up centuries later and transformed into this direct challenge, a claim about identity, about authority, and ultimately about being the Son of God.
Okay, so to really get what's happening in the new story, we've got to go back and understand the old one. Our story really begins with the prophet Isaiah, hundreds of years before Jesus, who sang this song about a vineyard. And here is the absolute key. You have to get this. The song isn't just about some garden. It's a metaphor. Isaiah's audience knew it, and centuries later, you can bet Jesus' audience knew it too. The vineyard is Israel. It's a stand-in for the nation.
So, in Isaiah's original song, the owner, who represents God, does everything perfectly. He clears the land, he plants the absolute best vines, builds a watchtower for protection, he invests everything. But when it's time for the harvest, he's looking for good fruit, for justice, and all he gets is what the song calls bad fruit, basically bloodshed and distress. In this first telling, the problem is the vineyard itself.
All right, let's fast forward about 700 years. We're leaving the prophet Isaiah behind. Now we're in the temple in Jerusalem, and the mood is, let's just say, it's incredibly tense. Jesus is there, he's teaching, and huge crowds are hanging on his every word. And this, as you can imagine, is making the established religious authorities, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, they're getting really nervous. So they decide it's time to confront him, publicly.
And make no mistake, this is a public showdown. This isn't just some friendly theological chat. It's a power play. They are demanding, right there in front of everybody on their home turf, who do you think you are? Who gave you the right?
But Jesus, he doesn't walk into their trap. He doesn't give them the straight answer they're trying to pin him down with. Instead, he pivots. He starts telling a story, a parable, and it's a story that would have sounded incredibly familiar. He kicks off this story about a landowner and a vineyard. And everyone listening, their ears would have immediately perked up. They're thinking, oh, Isaiah's song, we know this one. But it wouldn't take long for them to realize, wait a minute, Jesus is singing the same tune, but he's completely changed the lyrics.
And this right here, this is the game-changing twist. In Isaiah's song, remember, the problem was the vineyard itself, the bad fruit. But in Jesus' new version, the vineyard's fine. The problem is with the tenants, the managers left in charge. The blame has been shifted from the people directly onto their leaders.
So in the story, the landowner, God, sends his servants to collect the fruit that is rightfully his. Now everyone listening would have understood that these servants represent the prophets who had been sent to Israel over and over again through the centuries. But the tenants, they're not having it.
The story just builds with this awful pattern of violence. The tenants don't just say no. They beat the messengers. They publicly shame them. They even kill them. Every single attempt the owner makes to reach out is met with more and more brutality.
So after all the servants have been rejected, beaten, or killed, the story reaches its breaking point. The climax. The landowner has one last card to play, one final person he can send. And this messenger, this one is completely different from all the others.
And boom, this is the moment the entire story hinges on. The landowner sends his son, not another servant, not a more important servant, but his one and only beloved son. This is a total category shift. The story draws a razor-sharp line in the sand between all the servants who came before and the one who comes last, the son.
So let's just break this down. In the logic of the parable, the religious leaders are the wicked tenants. The prophets were the servants. And Jesus, by telling this specific story in response to their question about his authority, is casting himself in the role of the son. He's saying, I'm not just another prophet in a long line of them. I'm in a different category altogether.
And in making this move, Jesus isn't just making one claim. He's making two. And both of them were absolutely shocking for his audience to hear.
First, and this is the big one, he's claiming to be the Son of God, totally unique and distinct from all the prophets. He's the heir. And second, by having the Son be sent last of all, he's also claiming to be God's final message to Israel. The story slams the door shut. After the Son, no one else is coming. And it's kind of amazing when you think about it. For 2,000 years, no major prophet has risen up in Israel since.
So the big question is,
Did the religious leaders who challenged him get it? Did these subtle, yet explosive claims hidden in his story just go over their heads? Not a chance. The answer is a clear, resounding yes, they got it.
There was zero confusion. They weren't scratching their heads wondering, who are the tenants? They knew. They knew exactly what he was saying, and they knew exactly who he was talking about.
I mean, the text itself couldn't be more explicit. The chief priests and the Pharisees understood perfectly. They knew Jesus had just painted them as the murderous tenants who rejected all of God's messengers and were now about to kill his son.
And their reaction tells you everything. They immediately start looking for a way to arrest him. Why? Because to them, by claiming to be the Son, he wasn't just telling an insulting story. He was committing blasphemy. He was making a claim to divine authority that was a direct threat to them, and, in their legal system, a crime punishable by death.
So when is a story more than just a story? I think this parable gives us the answer. It's when a familiar tune is retold in such a way that it forces everyone listening to pick a side, revealing not just what they think about an old song, but who they believe the storyteller is right here and now.